2024 Team Canada World Junior roster. Today it was announced that Matthew Poitras will be joining Team Canada, but it's just not necessarily the skilled teams we've seen in the past. Canada looking to three-peat at this tournament. Canada this year looks poised to make another deep run into the playoffs. Good start for Canada today, and it's an ordinary day for Canadians as they beat Latvia 10-0. Sweden 2, Canada 0. Big time injury problem, as well as suspension. And then the fourth one between Canada and the Czechs. I expect them to win it, but at the same time, it's not guaranteed.
It's not the NHL per se, but
that spells the end for Canada in this tournament. No more Canada, no three-peat. They're done. It's over.
In the future, us is looking at this. This is the 2022 World Juniors.
Trip! It's a trip! Go on! Go!
Got Johnson.
Go, baby! That's another one! All the time!
Is under review. What's going on?
World Juniors quarterfinals, Canada versus Slovakia.
If Canada loses this game, I will leave the country.
Water expired February 17th, 2022.
Let's go! Go! The greatest goal in World Junior history!
Today we're going to be watching Canada hopefully win gold. That is the goal of today's game.
Yeah! Let's go! Let's go, baby! Let's go! Gold medal, let's go!
Hello everyone, welcome back to On the Fly. Today we're previewing the team representing Canada at the 2025 World Junior Championships happening in Ottawa, Ontario. So before we get too far into it today, some general reactions to this team and some very notable names left off this list, which we'll get to in just a little bit here. But overall, a good team. In my eyes, this Canadian team is going to be able to contend with the two teams you're sort of looking at. It's between the US, Sweden, Canada are your three that you're going to look for. Sweden, the US, those two teams that in my eyes pose the biggest threat this year to Canada. And obviously, as you just saw from the video intro, yes, Canada last year, a lot of expectations looking for the three-peat. Could not capitalize this year. It's a brand new year, brand new team. Can Canada take it back on home soil is going to be the question here. So we'll hop into it today, starting with the team representing Canada. We start off here with the forwards with Cole Bowden, Matthew Cataford, Berkeley Caton, Easton Cowan, Ethan Gauthier, Tanner Howe, Jet Luchenko, Porter Malone, Gavin McKenna, Brad Lunado, Luca Pirelli, Carson Rykoff, Callum Ritchie, and Braden Yeager. Then to the defensemen with Bo Akey, Oliver Bonk, Sam Dickinson, Andrew Gibson, Tanner Mollendijk, Sawyer Minio, Caden Price, Matthew Schaefer. The goalies with Carson Bjornsson, Carter George, and Jack Ivankovich. So when we look at this team, it's a good team, right? But we would be remiss not to talk about some of the names left off this list. Denver Barkey as one, who I think last year had a very good shot at making this team as well and just fell short. He didn't make camp last year. A lot of reaction to that. And he didn't make the team this year. So we're in that same sort of runaround where it's Canada leaving certain guys off the list. You look at a guy like Easton Cowan, and especially who gets hurt. You have guys like Bennett Seneca, who just got recalled to the camp after being an original snub. Zane Perrick's another one, although I will admit Perrick's camp wasn't as good as what I would have expected coming from a guy who obviously had that opportunity come to him after being snubbed, having all the eyes on him, just unfortunately could not get it done. And it's an interesting sort of makeup of this team. And it's a team that's sort of a mix of size, skill, speed, where we look at last year where Canada really tried to go with that less skill, more size route to compete against teams like the US. But what we ended up seeing is they played that size game against teams that were bigger than them. Teams like the Czechs, who frankly Canada should be rolling over, yet they lose 3-2 in a game in that quarterfinals that knocks them out after looking for the three-peat too. So for Canada, that sort of returned back to what they're good at. You know, they play with a little bit of size, play with a little bit of speed, play with a little bit of skill, have that sort of full three-way game going. And I think that's where Canada's going to be really good this year. Before we even talk about the defense, that's just the forward group. The defense, a little bit more bigger in size. You know, not a single guy under 6 foot on this team and on the defense side. And that's where I think this defense is going to be really good, especially when you're in tight. You know, this is the new sort of North American defender that we're looking at. Not undersized guys, but guys who can play the full 200-foot game, who are also very good defensively, who are also very good physically. That's the key to success for Canada here on the defense side, is be able to battle in front of the net. You know, looking at a guy like Matthew Schaefer, who's undrafted, coming into his draft year. He's a guy who I think could really turn some heads. And I think he's, you know, one of those players that isn't necessarily going to be, you know, the guy that you're sort of popping off the table about until you see him in action. Then it's like, okay, this guy's got what it takes. And it really wouldn't surprise me. You know, this is what we like to say about this tournament. It does turn a lot of heads. You think back a couple of years ago with the Slavkovsky versus Shane Wright. And at the juniors, you know, Shane Wright did not have a very good showing versus a guy like Slavkovsky, where he really took it by the reins. And sure, if we're going to take the full out of a context here, Slavkovsky also played in the Olympics and really showed himself well there. And that's, in my eyes, why he was drafted number one. But this could be the very thing that can turn a draft or a scout's eye and say, this guy's got what it takes. So for me, Matthew Schaefer is a player to watch at this tournament. I think he's definitely got what it takes. And I'll be curious to see, you know, sort of what else goes on there, if he's able to find something else. But at the end of the day, you're also looking at like Gavin McKenna, who's another one that is probably going to be looking to turn some heads at this tournament. And I think, you know, underage guy, we'll see what he's able to do. Not going to be able to draft it this year, the year after. He's a guy that I think really is going to catch some eyes at this tournament if he plays. And that's the one problem with some of these younger guys coming in, is the difference between a year is a pretty big gap. And I think in McKenna's case, I'll be interested to see whether or not he's going to be able to make this team in a starting lineup capacity. Definitely going to be something to take a look at there. Some of the NHL guys who are coming, that could be coming, Zach Benson is really the only name I've heard floating around. I don't suspect he'll be there. Similar to Matt Patra from last year, he was a guy who kind of came in last minute, trying to help Canada. And I think, you know, similar stuff going on with Benson this year in Buffalo. The only main difference is, you know, Buffalo's sort of a little bit lower in the standings, although once again, right up there. And I think Benson, I don't think he'll be on the Canadian roster, but still to be announced. We'll be curious to see there. Bradley Nadeau from the AHL, Carolina draft pick. He's a guy that I'm interested to see what his role is going to be. He wasn't able to attend camp, obviously playing in Chicago. So we'll see what goes on there. If Nadeau is going to be a player who's going to get a lot of ice time for Canada, I would expect it. Another guy is Jet Luchenko, who played a little bit with Philly earlier in the year. He's another guy that I think could very well mix in, but I think at the same time, he's a player to definitely keep an eye on there, as well as the goalies. And now this is another one that I think is going to be interesting, because you have sort of three goalies that are really up for grabs. You know, Ratzlaff, who was on the team last year, snubbed off this one, not a part of the team, which to me was an interesting move as well. And I think for a guy like Ivankovic, he's a player that I think has a very good opportunity here to show his stuff. Another one, Carter George, and he was, you know, he made headlines last year with his play, and it's just going to come down to which goalie's riding the hot hand heading in. I think the pre-tournament action, there's 3 this year, is going to be very, very telling. And I think it really is going to come down to who plays their game at the right time in front of the right people to get that spot. So in terms of my favorite to start, I don't really have one as of right now. I think it is truly a toss-up here. If they're looking for size, Bjarnason is probably your guy. But really, it is a toss-up. And I think you have athletic goaltenders with Ivankovic and George. You got size with Bjarnason. And I think at the end of the day, it's going to be a toss-up for that starting goalie role. But at the same time, it would not surprise me to see them go with anyone else. But, of course, if we're doing a preview, let's talk about the schedule, what they're looking like coming in. So we start here in the prelims. December 26th at 7:30 p.m., they'll play the Finns. The 27th at 7:30 p.m., they'll play Latvia. December 29th, they'll play Germany at 7:30. And then on New Year's Eve, of course, the matchup everyone loves to see, Canada and the U.S. This game will be at 8 o'clock. It was a change on December the 2nd. The schedulers changed the time slot. Originally 7:30, it is now at 8 o'clock. And all these games will be at the Canadian Tire Center in Ottawa. And then assuming, of course, Canada makes it to the quarterfinals, which by some miracle, if they don't, I think we'll be more surprised than even last year where they got knocked out by the Czechs. But still, January 2nd is your first day of the quarterfinals. All their games, once again, will be at 7:30. So 7:30 for the quarters. January 4th, assuming they make it, will be at 7:30 for the semifinals. And then the bronze medal game will be at 3:30 on January 5th. And the gold will be on January 5th at 7:30. All the playoff games for Canada will be at the Canadian Tire Center in Ottawa, which we will be on site for. So be sure to subscribe. We are very excited to be in the building for this, capturing a little bit of video as well. So if you are interested, be sure to subscribe, hit the notification bell so you guys never miss an upload. But with that, if you made it this far in the video, thank you for watching. If you'd like to drop a like, if you really like, you're subscribing, tell all your friends and comment down below your thoughts on Team Canada. Until next time, see you.